Hey guys, BBI here. I want to stop and say thanks for tuning in and checking out whatever the video is about that's about ready to come up next. If you could take a minute and hit subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy what you've seen here, make sure to hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Anyhow guys, all that aside, let's get on with the show. Living on this endless road, around the world for rock and roll. Sometimes it feels so tough, but I still ain't had enough. Nothing too much, but that's what lights my fire. I said I'm feeling alright amongst the noise and the lies. Okay, good afternoon, good morning, good evening time. Hello, what's going down? So today we're going to make stupid progress on this box. It's going to actually look like an amplifier here for the end of the day. I know everybody thinks I've really been dragging my feet, but what I've really been doing is laying down good prep work and a good base-bound foundation for everything here. So first things first, we're going to start out on page 36 of the manual. We are going to install the band selector, the front band selector portion, which we've already got pre-assembled here. I did have a gentleman in the group that seemed like he couldn't get his head wrapped around the fact that we were building an Sb-220 out of an Sb-221 kit. And apparently I did not make that clear enough. I don't know how that's possible, but this is an actual Sb-221 kit that we went out and we were able to get all the Sb-220 parts legit new from Heathkit, and we were building an Sb-220 full out, not a 221. We are not building a 221. The 221 does not have 10 meters in it, 15 meter, or 10 meters and 12 meters in it. And the magic band, or the miracle band, the 11 meter band, it doesn't have it. This is going to have it. That's the reason for this. Okay. This is why we spent all this time working on just this and me meticulously explaining it. So we are building an Sb-220 out of an Sb-221 kit. You'll see it's going to work everywhere. So we're on page 36, and we're going to very quickly move through page 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, and 45, which will put us all the way down to putting the side plates on this thing and having the faceplate on the front of it. And enough dilly-dallying. I really want to get on with this. It's time to start making some really fast forward progress. So here we go. Okay, so band selector in and ALC board tied in. The thing I think is interesting is on the Sb-220 they have me tie it in on the output side, which is down here at the bottom. And the book very clearly dictates to put it on the top. So we're going to go with the book. It doesn't really matter which side it goes in on, I guess. It's got to sniff the RF either way. That's really all this is an RF sniff circuit. It's going to let a little bit of energy pass by, drive this circuit to run the ALC circuitry. So on page 38 and page 39 is all about the assemblage of the high volt pass-through, which goes here, our output band selector, and we're going to start assembling our tank coil circuit. So we're going to need parts out of this kit. But you don't need the coil. We're going to need that. We don't need these little coils. We are going to need that wafer board, that standoff insulator, that insulator, and all of this can go back in the kit. I know we're going to need this here in a few minutes, so we're just going to set this out here. So let's get the kit put out of the way. And let's grab our tank coil, part of it. This is our tap portion of our tank coil. This allows us to grab up 80 and so on, all the way up. This sits back here. This attaches to our tuner, and then this attaches to our band selector. So, and for documentation purposes, let's go ahead and we'll check this out. It came from the factory, silver soldered and silver dipped. I see a lot of guys where they go and they resolder this joint. I always wondered if this was something that you had to add in the kit or not, and no, it comes pre-assembled. So, for the life of me and the instructions, I don't know why, because I am doing this per the instructions. If it was up to me, myself, and I'd probably have put this output band selector and had us index all of this crap while this was out of the deck, and make getting to all the holes in the spots that I need to put parts through much, much easier. But we're going to endure because we're doing it by the book, and not by what I have to say in my head, and several hundred of these as repairs. So let's see, we're also going to need our insulator and pass-through, which is right here. Schmidt. Herman H. Schmidt, Inc., Brooklyn, New York. Electronic components. We're going to need this. And then a bunch of hardware out of this bag. Yeah, primarily out of that bag. Okay, moving on. Let's get our output band selector put in. Let's make sure we got everything indexed properly. So we're going to turn everything to the right and then also set the band selector up in the back for all the way to the right. So we'll get this set up. Awesome. I tried it, it didn't drop the nuts, and it actually worked, and it didn't blow the end out in it. I was very worried about that, by the way. Incredibly worried. The goal is to get this piece, this tool, to the end user and not have it disintegrate. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, so the output band selector is now in, and we've got it indexed properly for 10 meters. And so then when you wheel it all the way around and grab up this lug down here on the bottom side, that'll be for your 80 meter position. So, okay, moving on. Well, okay. So this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the front end is very low power, of course, as our input. The output side of the band switch, I've seen some failures here over the years. Now, let's just talk about assembling this. Before I slapped this together, I got out this little tool. This is called a varnishing tool. Or varnishing tool. It's just a little tiny piece of metal that's got an impregnated surface. I think it's some hardened diamond material or jade material on it. It's unbelievably fine when you take and run your fingers over it. You can't even feel any like grit or pressure to it or resistance. It's just, it's almost like a smooth piece of metal, but it's what they have designed to clean contacts. Well, I went in there and before I assembled this, I very, very, very carefully cleaned the band wafers. Because once again, we're dealing with parts that are 50 years old, right? What I didn't think about was cleaning these tabs. Now in the manual they say that I'm supposed to crush this flat. I ended up crushing those flat with a 2 pieces of copper plate in the vise to get that to compress the way I wanted it to. Each one of these wires. And they say take the end, you're supposed to smush it flat, and then you shove it through the hoe. I shoved it through the hoe when I went to soldering. Like, I got this. I've done this a million times, right? The wire took solder. The eyelets didn't want to play along. I ended up having to flux them several times and reheat several times and pull the solder off several times and then flux again, and finally they all took. But a word to the wise to anybody that tries to do this in the future: do not follow the manual, because the manual is going to have you put tube 666 in place here, and then they want you to run all the wires. These wires here. You'll never get this to look good. And I have seen so many failures from this being not run smoothly, these connectors, over the years. It's just like they jam the wire in there and they don't want to slow down to take the time to do this right, even though this is probably one of the more critical joints in the amplifier. Your coax connector at the back where that terminates, that's really critical. And the next one down is where the coax attaches to the relay. That's another very critical joint. And then, of course, the wire jumper that goes between this connection here at the bottom, this one here, and the relay is another really, really, really important connector. I would say that all of these connections trump that, just simply because it's so hard to get to fix. When I see that I have a problem on this band switch, I recognize that it is going to take me probably 4 hours just in disassembly, because you've got to take this tube out, okay, got to disconnect all of these joints, and if they got hoops in the end of them, or somebody took the time to shove the wire through, bent it back around, and then pulled it back, which isn't necessary, by the way. That adds probably another 2 hours of complexness to it, because it's just easier to cut these leads and then replace them again. Well, it takes about an hour and a half to do this properly. So that's just on the disassembly side. Then you go in there and you do whatever little maintenance that you're going to do to this band switch. And this is the only one that you can buy a replacement for. The input band switch, yeah, forget it. There's none on the internet anywhere. I've got a handful of them, and that's only because I've been collecting them for ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. These output ones, you can buy them from Harbach. This is the most critical joint in the box. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, why I've got all yours attention in captivity here, is this interlock. It's right here. That interlock is the only thing that's in this amp that saves your life. Okay, as soon as you take that top lid off, there's a pin that pushes down on this tab. And when you release the top lid, that thing is designed to short out, removing any chance of you having the ability to electrocute yourself. Well, about 99% of them that show up here, that tab is bent way down out of the way, because the guy's been running it without the lid on it because he wants to watch it fail or figure out where he's got a problem. And I might be guilty of it myself, but every one of them that leaves here, I make sure I bend them all the way back up so they have full spring retention again, and they want to return to this position, because that's the only thing in here that's going to save your life when you get in a hurry and decide you're going to be a soldering iron Rambo, G.I. Joe. That little tab. The other thing I've noticed is I've had those joints come apart. This connector, this pin come apart before, so guess what? There's just a smidgen of blue Loctite on the inside of that thing holding it all together. But at the end of the day, the number one tip I'm going to pass down to you is creating this hoop. Now in the manual, they're going to say for us to take this lead, at least in the Sb-220 manual, we take this tab and we're supposed to shove it down in here and solder it in place inside this connector down here, right here. And what I have learned over the years is if you create a simple C hoop, that's all this is a little C hoop. You take this tab, you put it on the inside, you lift up on it, and you're able to solder to this pin and down here, and it guarantees a good connection no matter how hot the connector gets. Your other option is to create a little hoop with the strap and slap it around this pin, which is much easier to solder to than those little tiny tabs down there that are going to give you fits, because they will give you fits. So that's what this looks like. Well, that takes us to the end of page 39. We're going to jump on to page 40, and this is where we start putting our tuners in, which is yay. I'm excited for that, because this thing is going to really start to look like an actual amplifier from this part forward. It's going to start moving really, really quick. At least till we get to the bottom, on the bottom where we do all the wiring. And, well, as we all know, I really like wiring stuff pretty, so it's going to take a while. But that looks freaking great, in my opinion. Just saying. Well, this is my most favorite portion of the whole box right here. It's all silver, so I gotta put my, let's see, is it 2 for distinct one? Okay, this is my favorite portion of the whole amplifier. I gotta put my my fingy protectors on. Now, the hardest thing for people to get their head wrapped around with this tuner configuration, and I say this over and over and over and over on video, and I don't think it ever really sinks into anybody's brain, but this tuner tunes to the tubes, this tuner tunes the antenna, and this whole clapped out clackamajobber over here is what allows us to change the length of this overall coil. So it's not just this coil, it's all of this other coil down in here. Man, this whole other coil as well. So the total length of everything comes into play. Now, this is a little bit tricky because most guys that are monoband box guys, and there's monoband box guys everywhere. This took me a long time to get my head wrapped around. It's like I thought every ham had a band switch. No. You are crazy not to think that there are guys that aren't on 80 meters that have hyper monobanded their box just for 80 meters and got rid of all the other taps. And the only thing you got to do is provide a connection from coil to coil, or from tuner to tuner. Well, how this works out with this box, there you can see it perfectly there, is we're going to latch up here on this tuner. Then we're going to attach our big coil, our big air coil, up here. Well, this whole thing is inductor. And where this tuner latches up is all the way down at the bottom of this inductor coil down here, the very bottom. Then up through this hole here in the bottom is how we get the RF from the top section to the bottom end of the deck. So all the band switch does is goes click, 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 and click, and it takes us between the different taps on the coil. Monoband guys are just going to look at one tank coil. All you're doing is making the coil longer for the longer the frequency. Remember, the lower you go, the longer the freak. The higher you go, the smaller the frequency, smaller the tank coil. And right around 6 meters or so, it gets to the point where it gets really tough to even have a tank coil. It turns into a trace, and then it turns into what they call a tuned cavity. the internal space of the box is resonant, and that is your tank coil, which is a conversation for another day, which I always thought was really cool. If you go back and look, I did a legal limit 2-meter amplifier that had had a single 800 in it. And it was a tuned cavity resonant box. And a tank coil is a piece of coax, and it tuned cavity. So we are on page 42. We finished up on pages 41 and pages 40, which were installation of this tuner, installation of this tuner. Now, with experience has taught me a couple different things. They wanted me to use this spade connector, which is really stupid thin, and I don't like it because, well, it's a spade, not an eyelet that goes all the way around. The other thing that I noticed has changed is on the Sb-220s and so on, these are 632 threads on the older Johnsons, and so is this one. And there was a bunch of stacked star washers and nuts and stuff. On this particular build, what they want us to do is we had to back these nuts off, and we're using pressure, just sheer pressure, not between the mechanical connections of two nuts, but the mechanical connection between the threaded shaft that goes all the way up the length of the tuner, this threaded shaft. They want us to pressure fit everything between the porcelain and this nut, which I don't like. I found that this porcelain is very unforgiving. So you got to be very careful how much pressure you apply to it. So they wanted us to do this little hook and loop method that goes down off the bottom and then runs up, and then they wanted us to hook it into this eyelet. I don't like that system, so I went ahead and I did a solderable tab down on the bottom of the coil. I put the wire through the solderable tab, hooked it around, and then fully encapsulated the tab down in here, which I'll show in a picture later on, and soldered it. Brought the conductor straight out, and then I went and I got myself a silver plated eyelet, which I got bags of because there was a guy here locally that was selling out his electronic shop, and I bought everything he had. Silver plated, pure copper, nickel plated eyelet that fully encapsulates, so we get the whole pressure of the whole contact surface of this nut, then added a washer to it. So I got a washer, pressing on an eyelet, pressing on porcelain. I'd much rather have a washer or a nut than the washer, the eyelet, another washer, a lock washing mechanism, either it be a spring-loaded washer or a star washer, and then another nut. We don't have those parts, so we're going to build with what we got. Used a silver-plated eyelet down here, which will work way better than this little guy. But this little guy, we're going to utilize it up here on the top end of the tank coil where there's not so much pressure on it, electrical pressure. I know there's some guy out there right now that says, but PVI, the relative electrical amount of current that flows through it on this band and that band and that band is supposed to be the same. You're right. The frequency also has a lot to do with it too. So, moving on. We grab a little flat blade or flat blade freaking screw here. We're going to put ourselves a star washer on the back side of this threaded shaft. Threaded shaft, pair of pliers. I had to come out here this morning and the tip of my flat blade was rounding off on the edges. So yesterday my flat blade kept hopping out of whatever I was trying to drive the screws into. So I went to a really stupid fine, like 200 grit belt on my big sander, and I sanded the tip of my blade flat, and then I brought it in at I had to reprofile my freaking Klein screwdrivers. And this happened the other day. Look at this. The whole tip of the Phillips disintegrated. I've literally worn these screwdrivers out building amps for you guys because I bought these I'll never forget, I took the commission for Frankenstein's spine. And I took a couple $100 from that commission. I ended up losing my ass on that amp, by the way. I built that whole amp for less than $1,600. I took some of the money from that commission and I bought these screwdrivers when I was done. Basically, I was in the hole, so I had to buy them on credit, I guess. But, end of the day, here we are 6 years later, or whatever it is, worn these screwdrivers out. So it might be time to replace them with new clients. Okay, so what they want us to do in the manual is they want us to mount here and then attach it over here. And really what they're suggesting in the book that I do is take a piece of hard-drawn copper like this that has been nickel-plated, shove it in here, crimp this just a little bit, backfill it with solder, and then use that to wrap around this nut at the top. I don't think so. I'm going to do something different here. So we're going to go here. We want to index this over here. That will work. I don't like that, even that. I'm not. I don't like this. Do this differently. So let's see. Oh. Yep, there we go. Yep. This is what we're going to do. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go. Yep. What I'm debating with here is this eyelet will not allow me to get full capture. Here, focus here, camera. This eyelet will not allow me to get full capture all the way around the silver tubing, or that will. And I have a lot more confidence. Bend the strap out of the way. Since we're working in a surface area environment, I have a lot more confidence in increased surface area holding just the few thousand small watts that are going to go through this connection. I'll flex that up a little bit. And big joint. Don't get in a rush. Here, hold on, let me set this up for your viewing pleasure. I have a lot more faith in that connection than I do this idea, which, by the way, out of all the boxes I've worked on, I've never seen that fail. Never. I've never had that fail. Or this connection here. You can't really see it, but woo, warm. The thickness between the two eyelets is pretty substantial. So let me get myself my defluxing rag. Yeah, I'll live with that. All right. So what we were doing there is we're cleaning up our connection point with an eraser. The soft little eraser is the perfect little anti-corrosion 50-year connection miracle tool, I guess would be the best way to put it. The softness of the... Is this a longer tuner than... Yes, it is. Okay. Just now dawned on me, the tuner here that's in the deck, a couple different holes. This is the length of the standard tuner. All right. Anyhow, the eraser is to just knock off the 60 plus years worth of silver plated oxidization. Now up here, I pre-wired this, or not pre-wired, preloaded this with the hardware. I've got a stainless steel nut, or a stainless steel washer, as a backer. Now we're going to put a stainless steel washer as a front loader. And we're going to put our little star washer into play. And then, let's see how I can do this and not drop it. If I can, I'll be really proud of myself. There we go. There it is. Whoop, there it goes. Okay. Now all we gotta do, even though it doesn't say it in the instruction book, because remember, this is for the 10-meter modification. So we got to bring this strap down. And we have got to solder it around that C down in there. Well, the camera's point of view looks really nice. But how do I make this work for me to physically get in here and do the job? Throw a tiny little bit of liquid flux on that. Let's tin our tip. All right. I cannot watch what I am doing and watch what's on the camera, so I hope we get this all in one shot. But here let's see, am I blocking the screen? I am not. Okay. Let's go. Oh, it's perfect. Oh, it's perfect. Okay. I'll live with that. Let's let that thoroughly cool down. Cool, so in the future, all you gotta do if you wanted to take that off is just unsolder it. It comes right off, because it's not trapped down in between the two very delicate pins of the switch. Now it did slide back a little bit, but if you notice, right there is the very tip of the wire. So we've got 100% capture around that wire, which is good. That's good. Oh, and I didn't muff up the joint on the switch either. Sweet. Well, that's page 42 is complete. Now let's get on to page 43, which is the blocker and plate choke. Okay, using a stainless steel nut in this placement, or not nut, but screw. Let's see. Let's see if we can get this index with 1,000 puff up. Yes, sir. Let's make sure my screw is straight up and down. It is. All right. Styling and profiling here. This is the mother effing of Lego sets, if there ever was one, I swear. Okay. Even got that one to index up and down straight. That looks great. Okay, so I know I'm going to need this because I'm familiar with it. Make sure we got everything in frame where everybody can see it. We're going to need that. And we're going to need this, and we're going to need a fiber washer. I know that. And then we're going to need this flat small washer. So parts bags are getting pretty thin, you guys. I need that little washer. I know that for a fact. I might have had one of these apart once or twice. This is going to be our last fiber washer that we use. So I need that. Need that fiber washer. Let's see here. And then I'm going to need another stainless steel screw. Groove. One, two of these. Boy, we're almost out of the solder tabs. Got one, two more left to go. No, I'm gonna need this long one. That's what I need right there. The reason we got to use this one is because it's got a beveled head on it, and it comes through here, okay, and comes down the washer, which is basically a spacer. If you don't have that spacer in there, none of this works out for the better. Okay, so it's a little bit of a trick to set up. You can see this shaft is threaded. That's threaded here. This is threaded, but I've noticed it's not exactly a 632 thread. It's always a little bit off. Oh, the washer's got a nick out of it. It's all right. So we're going to back it up on there tight. We're going to start this guy down. Nope, negative. Apparently I'm not going to need that hardware and shit that I just pulled because it's already right here on the end of the damn choke. Okay. Flat blade. Remember, you guys, it's just porcelain, so we can't be like super retard reefing on this thing. But that, oh, careful now, BBI. Okay, so plate choke number 1 or number 2, however you want to think about it. And we got another plate choke that goes here, which is in this bag. It sits between here and here. And then we got to use a wire to tie from here back to here. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever explained to you how a plate choke works, but it's really freaking cool because it's so stinking simple. It's one of these things that once you understand how it works, you're going to be like, oh, well, that's makes stupid sense. You really got to applaud these guys that figured out all of this stuff way before all of us. And they really had their brains wrapped around resonancy, okay? What do you mean by resonancy? You want to do everything you can to discourage the RF to go in a certain direction. RF will always travel down the path of least resistance, and you always want that to be out of the box and to the antenna. You do not want your RF to travel down this wire. So as you take wire and hoop it by itself, you're changing its ability to be able to resonate the RF. The RF isn't going to want to go that way. So this has got 150 turns on it, let's say. What is another thing that you can do after you run the wire 150 turns past itself and stacked right on top of each other? Because if you're tuning for frequency, they want to be separated a little bit, and there's another whole layer of math that goes along with that. But what's another thing that we can do? Add another choke, you say? Yes, but then you can add reference to ground, or otherwise a capacitor. All right? Now, a capacitor has a couple different functions. Its primary function is to block DC. All right? Its next function is that you can change a circuit's ability to be proximal to ground. And then your other option is a storage and a filtering device. Filtering device at the last refers to also its primary function at the first. By us adding this doorknob here, it throws the resonance of this thing to like 200 or 300 to 1. The secondary choke sends this all the way out to almost 1,000 to 1. The RF doesn't, and it's a delicate balance that you're playing with these two chokes. All right? And the delicate balance is resonance. You got to remember, you have to create the choke to not be resonant anywhere. Because this amplifier works from 80 megahertz to 10 megahertz, where if we were in a monoband situation, let's say for 11 meters, okay, you're going to have like 32, 34 turns on 1 inch. 80 meters would be about 160, 170 turns on 1 inch for the choke portion. But we're going to put 1,000 down here, which throws the resonance off almost infinitely. Remember, we're blocking the DC current, right? So the DC can't flow through here. What's coming off this pin? High voltage DC. What's going in here? High voltage DC. What's in between? Another choke. And the delicate balance, another one of the delicate balances that we're playing, is to make sure the choke is significant enough, heavy enough, has enough strand count, or is thick and big enough to carry the current over the distance. Let's think about that for a second. If we take and we string this thing out and unstrand the coil, we've got a 70 million gauge wire that's like 1.5 feet long. And then when we go to this even smaller wire and we unspool it, now we've got like 6.5 feet of wire. It's like a jabillion gauge wire, right? Is the plate choke enough to handle? Guys, we're talking about 1 amp. I mean, on the peaks, we might pulse pull into maybe the realm of 2 amps. This little piece of wire is totally cool. The reason I'm pointing all this out is so that you guys can learn. All right, let me wire up this little section. So, I had to cut myself off there. I got myself lost down a rabbit hole of thought there. Okay, so the last instruction on page 43, it says refer to pictorial 4-5 for the next 2 steps. Okay, well, we're looking at pictorial detail 4-5N. It says connect a 1.5 medium bar wire from capacitor to solder lug in CMS1 reference RFC1 solder lug. Cut each lead from the RF choke 45-6 45-6 to the length of 3/8 of an inch. Connect one lead to the choke lug of the DC S2 and the other lead to the solder lug spacer on the DD -S1. All right. Page 43 is completed. Let's move on. Page 44, yay, paper insulator time. I was wondering when this was going to come. Because the paper insulator, the glue they use on this is kick-ass, here to tell you. I've had it be so dry that it falls apart in paste, and I've had it so that it was still so sticky that I had to take acetone and get it off the damn cabinet so I could take all these little bits off. See, underneath this paper spacer is all the mounting hardware for the RF DAC, right? So, shame on you, BBI. Nope, ain't gonna happen. Okay. moment when being OCD just kicks your butt. Okay. Anywho, like I was saying, I've had to take this off many a time. And the way I have seen this do, the way the book is telling us to do this, paper insulator, here in this illustration right here. So it wants us to notch this and then slide the paper insulator all the way to the wall. I never see people do that. And now that I understand that most of these are kit amplifiers, it means most of these examples that I have seen. Where is my paper insulator, by the way? Oh, where has my paper insulator gone? Where could it be? Is it still in the manual? I think I separated that out. Nope. Is it still somehow magically stuck down in the book? Negative. Because it was right here. Let me find this thing. So, found a paper insulator. Normally what I see people do is they bring them right up to the edge of the zener, or bias zener, and then they slap them on. And the whole idea from behind this paper insulator is a heat barrier. I don't know how much electrical insulation that it would provide, probably next to none. But we'd have to assume that this shield, because it's got a pair of 3500Zs right on the opposite side of the wall, might suck up a little bit of heat. And what they're trying to do is extend the life of the capacitors by having a little bit of thermal break between direct contact with the end of the cap and the metal cabinet. Okay, so everybody I've ever seen install these, they literally cut them right here. And then they put the, this is what holds in our high voltage capacitors, or the other half of our doubling circuit. Well, Chet, let's get on with this. Filament transformers in, and this thing is in pristine condition. It's so nice not to see these things, this rusted or burnt or rusted or 3 inches of cigarette schmoo on anything. Ugh. Okay, we're going to start going off the reservation here a little bit. This is pretty funny. Now they're finally coming around, they're showing the indexing of the pad in the back. Thank God we've already got that all figured out. They want us to put the faceplate on at this time, and I don't want to. I'm going to wait. I'm going to put the faceplate on last. So we're going to skip over, sorry, just thinking here. We're going to skip over page 45. We're going to go on to page 46, which is just install the side panel, which will only take a second. And then it's going to have us put on page 47, start us assembling the fan and the standoffs for the fan and that kind of stuff. So that'll only just take a couple minutes. And then it's going to have us start assembling the actual high voltage bank and cabinet on page 49. So I'm going to step out for a minute. I'm going to get the side panel mounted up. I'm going to get the fan installed. And I want to save the face for last. Like one of the last things I got to put on, because I just don't want to end up nicking the face. And if I'm working on stuff and trimming wires and flip-flopping it all over net, it's not going to turn out so hot. So I'm going to pull this side panel. I'm going to pull the rear panel, the fan motor, and we're going to start getting this ready to go. So we're going to jump from page 45 to probably page 50 here pretty quick. I want to see what their idea of heat shrink is. Just kind of got me a little curious. Let's go look at what we got in the pile over here. Look at this stuff. Huh, look at this stuff. Down it goes. Look at that. It's got glue in it and everything. Wow. Freaking cool, dude. We're going to use this stuff. I see this in the amp sometimes, but people don't bother to shrink it down. That's okay. We're going to need this for our fan assembly. So let me grab that, and let's grab some of this period type wire that we're not going to use. Yeah. Let's see. We'll use this stuff here. Here's our fan motor here. Let's see. This is the side panel for that side. This is the side panel here. That's the one we're talking about for here on this side of the cabinet. Here's our wire, our fan motor. Our fan blade. And let's see here. It's our rear panel. Here's our rear panel. It's in here with our face. It's in with our face. That is our rear panel with our silk screening on it. And it is pristine. Usually all beat to dog poop. Look at that. It's virgin. Virgin. And we'll go ahead and we'll do the mod to it to where we drop the fan down. Because we don't want to leave the fan in there at the stock height. We're going to drop it down a couple holes. Get a little bit more air circulation around the bottom side of the cabinet. So first things first, third things last, safety always first, and then second and then third. That is this side. Man, I am scatterbrained. It's almost like I've been out here all day. But it was worth it. I did it all for the Nookie. The Nookie of CB radio, of course. And radio in general. Ham radio. There we go. Let's get this side panel put on. Honestly, I want to depart from the manual at this point completely and get the back put on first. Get my fan mounted, and then I can use the back to support the side panel, which is stupid delicate. It's just my opinion. God, that motor is just... That's pretty. Well, it should be there, BBI. It's new. Alrighty, away we go. There we go. Okay, so, hi. Good evening, everybody. I keep forgetting that I'm not just talking to the lapel microphone here. We're actually got to talk right into the studio mic here. So, I've never done a live feed before. Hey, what's going on? Good evening. Tom, Eric. Hey, brother BBI. What's going on, Mr. Aaron? Never done a live feed before over here. I do it all the time on Facebook, but I thought for a change I would actually let you all see my face. So as we're working, we're doing this on two planes. You guys are getting to watch this live over here, and of course this will be up on the YouTube channel in the other portion of the video that's coming out on this little guy here. I've always wondered, me personally, what these fans look like new. And they usually show up, they're all rusted and cockroached out, and seen about 10,000 hours worth of turn time on them. and I've never in my life seen a completely brand new fan before. So, kind of quickly here, let me drag this giant microphone around. Let's go ahead and let's slide these two together. Come on. There we go. Now, me being me, and being a silly halfwit that I am, I can only assume I just put the fan together backwards, which I did not. Thank goodness. They have you prep the fan. This thing comes sub-assembled with some shipping screws that are in it, and you have to remove those and insert these anodized, black erudite screws in here. And erudite is a coating, actually, by the way. So let's pan this down. Now, let's take a minute. Let's read the comments here. I'm excited that I have my Striker 490 installed in my car. Sweet, good deal, Michael. Aaron's son, which just watched your mobile install. Hey, thank you on the work truck, that on the semi. That was a cold torture is what that was. Cold torture. So, thank you, by the way, I appreciate it. That was many days worth of work in the freezing snow. And we didn't even get to show all the cool stuff, like all the time that we took running the wire underneath the truck. Like on a Volvo, you can take the whole side panels, all the aerodynamic skirting and that kind of stuff off a truck. And because the guy actually really takes good care of his truck, my friend Alex, it was really a clean, quick install, but everything goes slower when you're freezing to death at 30 degrees. So let's go. I can't say that, William. Now we all know that's not your last name. That's a hell of a screen name, buddy. Oh man, William. But, and then maybe a liquor. Man, I pray to God I'm not opening Pandora's box right now. So the goal with the fan is we want to mount it as low as possible in this opening here inside. In the instructions it says to center it. And in my personal experience, we want to drop the fan as low as we possibly can in the mounting. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to get as much air movement underneath the base of this cabinet as we possibly can. That way we can get air movement across the pins on the bottom of the box, on the bottom side of the socket for the 3500Z. So it was made when I'm sure it was. I think we all were born with our booties when we were born there, Mr. William. Well, we'll pretend we're on Facebook. Anybody got any questions they feel like they're going to type out? Because this is only going to last about 10-15 minutes. It is Friday the 13th after all. I spent most of my day doing my other job, which entailed me freezing in the snow and fishing for a smashed up car up on top of a 7,000 foot mountain today. So, really not feeling this, but I got to keep moving forward now that the semi truck is out of here and I got to go back to work. So if you got a question, hey, I got Mr. Owada checking me out, dude. What's going on, Jason? God, I wish I was in Hawaii hanging out with you right now. Damn, brother. Oh, Danny, I'm just like you, buddy. Danny says, blessings to the great BBI. Guys, I'm just like you. The only difference is I've spent like 7 or 8 years of my life sitting around thinking about just this stuff. No difference between you and me. None. So we're going to make it quick, but we are going to make it. Hey, you know what? Screw this. I want to show you guys something. Check this out. Let's bring this up here for y'all to look at. So I did say in a previous segment or two ago that I was afraid to use these, right? This is the original screw starter from Heathkit. As you pick the screw up, like in this situation, get it started. Pacha! Isn't that awesome, right? Well, this gentleman says, I watched part 3. Think you might need some help. Dan, W3JH. Look at what Dan sent me. Isn't that cool? But in black, you know, because everything's better if it's black. I'm just telling you, it's better when it's black. So big shout out to Dan. I want to say thanks for sending these in. These will get used from this point forward because I'm going to try and preserve this red one for the owner of this amplifier. There goes the phone. That means somebody out there in radio world wants to ask me a question, but they don't want to do it here on the live feed. That was Machete, and I will get back to him in a minute. Okay, so that is awesome. Save the knuckles and I bigging my thumb up today. Donnie Blackhorse, finished part 1 now, and I'm home for the weekend. Yeah, I hope to have this done. Actually, Donnie Blackhorse says he's finished part 1 now, and he's gonna be home for the whole rest of the weekend, and he hopes to get to the rest of them. I hopefully can get this segment of the video done, and if you guys can see where we left off to where we are at now, there has been quite a bit of progress since what you guys have seen happen on the YouTube channel. Believe it or not, we're about 70% done. We've got the wiring underneath to do yet. We've got the plate transformer to put in, the capacitor bank, and a high voltage rectifier board. But that's all easy stuff. Believe me, we've been down that path before. So here we go. Hey Dan, I want to say thanks, buddy. I really do appreciate this. Oh, yes sir. The legendary Heath starter kit screw tool. Gotta love it. Love it. I'm not gonna lie, this webcam that I'm using right now, I've had for 8-9 years, and I am absolutely surprised that I was able to plug it in with little to no fuss, have all this working. Is the audio level okay? Give me some thumbs up if the audio level's okay, or put a 1 up there and type 1 in the screen for me if it sounds okay to you guys. Been watching you for about okay. The Southern Trucker. Sweet, everything's working good. I'd love to meet up with you too, man. Just give me a shout before you get up here. Tedious with Brown. If you have this amp, CB radio will be on my line. I do have, dude, I've got fat fingers. That's no joke. I got big hands, guys. I really do. Well, I'm a big guy. But if it wasn't for my extended fingers, my hemostats, I would not be able to do this job. I gotta tell you. So, well, I'm glad you guys are digging the audio coming off this little electric voice microphone. Like I said, it's a little starter kit mic. You know what I mean? A little tiny thing. But it gets the job done. So let's go ahead and we'll hook this wire underneath. Once again, I want to welcome everybody to my very first live feed session on YouTube ever. I'm kind of getting on board with this whole content creation thing. I got a friend of mine, his name is Raz, and He's the fastest guy in the RC world. Well, one of them anyhow. I can't say the fastest because you think they got politics in the land of CB, you should see how the RC car world sits around and talks about each other. It's cute. It's really cute, actually, to be honest with you. So, he is one of the fastest RC car guys in the world. And we were sitting there talking about what our end goals are personally. And I told him, I said, you know, I'd really like to quit working and do this legit full time. He's like, well, you've got enough content out there. I don't know why you're not. And so then he asked me what I actually get paid out in content. And because I hate commercials, absolutely hate commercials, right? Where's my flat blade? Here it is. I hate commercials. My actual monetization revenue stream from this channel kind of sucks, to be honest with you. And he just starts laughing at me. He says, well, if you're blocking it so there's no commercials on your channel, how do you think they're expecting to pay you from what? You know? And then I had to go on to explain to him that I kind of do this. I'm more interested in not doing this for profit. I do it just to help people see what I'm working on over here. And he just laughs at me. Then he proceeds to tell me about his buddy that's an auto detailer that used to work for him. And now he's got a YouTube channel with a couple 100,000 subs and makes $47,000 a month detailing cars on YouTube. I was like, I don't know, man. $500,000 a year after taxes is a decent living, I think. Me personally, but I don't think I'll ever get there with radio. So we'll just try and keep it humble. But you are going to see there's going to be a couple more ads starting to pop up. I mistakenly launched that video today on the tips and tricks. And I didn't go back and see how many ads it put on that thing. If you are one of those people that had to sit through the 12 ads that it decided to put on that one hour long video, I apologize. I have since fixed the situation. Okay, so here's a couple more comments. Give me a second, let's take a quick read. Rick says the watts don't lie. Yeah. Although they have claimed it for decades, no one's been able to prove it yet, right? Danny says, or no, Southern Trucker. I am 28 and been into CB since I was in my preteens, and it just seems like CB radio is dying out in this area. It's like, dude, it's the birth of the cell phone, Southern Trucker. Around here, we used to have 2 local channels, and I don't care, morning, noon, night, 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't care. You could turn the radio on around here, and you'd have 25 to 30 people to talk to. And pick a channel. It's channel 25 and channel 32 are our 2 local channels. And I'll never forget, they come out with the very first brick phone. Remember the tan brick phones that had an antenna on them that were like 2.5 feet long? And as you're sitting there talking on the phone, you could literally feel your skin starting to heat up. Yeah, well, because those phones put out like 8 watts of power. Anywho, those phones came out and like it felt literally like overnight the radios got turned off. It was just weird. Then the flip phone come out, the gray Motorola flip phone. So it's slowly dying, you guys. It's slowly dying. I used to run mud ducks of Super Bowl Channel 6 and retired from the game. Well, Mr. Brown, that is a story that we have been told over and over and over and over again. But there's still people like me out here that are trying to keep it real and keep moving forward with it. And I'm grateful for you coming and joining us tonight and just hanging out with us and enjoying radio through what we're working on over here. It's just kind of hard to play to 2 cameras at the same time and 2 different microphones, I gotta tell you. I used to do. Oh, people are having side conversations. That's cool. BBI question. I have a 15 meter Messenger 3 amplifier. Bro, I hate to break it to you, but Messenger never made a 15 meter amplifier. Not that I'm aware of. And they probably got it labeled for 15 meters for legal reasons. Just an idea. But we could look at it for you and tell you for sure. BBI. I bet you could perform. No, I don't think so. I highly doubt it. Mike, I don't think I could do brain surgery. Danny Blackhorse again. I went from CB to ham. Yeah, it's still FCB. Man, I'm both. I got my ham license when I was like 12. Yeah, 12. And I remember I made this big production about going to being an amateur radio operator, and as soon as I got there and actually got some equipment and started getting to talk with the guys on the amateur bands, very quickly I learned how much I missed the CB. And I was like, there's not people on 24/7, and I don't have working relationships with all of these people, and you guys are kind of lame. You don't cuss or swear. And I remember thinking that at the age of like 13 and 14 years old, having those thoughts like, hey, this is kind of lame. I understand it now that I'm more of an idiot. I mean, an adult. But let's face it, most amateur radio operators are CBers at heart. So, you don't believe me? Go listen to 80 meters, was it 3.485 or whatever it is, and listen to those guys do the final discussion all night long where they just sit there and say F you to each other all night. There are like 20 guys down there. All they do is sit there and cuss at each other all night long. Hey man, I have a Striker 955 HP, and I'm thinking of adding a small amp. Okay, so because the Striker is a 100-watt radio, you've only got a small little parameter of space that you're going to be able to use with that. It's just a hair bit too much drive for a 2-pill without an attenuator on the input of the 2-pill, and it's a little bit too little drive, which is good, for like a 4-pill. So you can use your 955, run it into a 4-pill, straight 4-pill with bias, and utilize all the functions and have 800-900 watts. But you're not running the 4-pill to its max, right? So you're not going to get the full 1200 watts or 1100 watts out of that 4-pill, which is a good thing. Now, if you go and you get yourself like a really hopped up derail radio, by the way, go check out his channel, Derail Radio, or Derail. You go and get one of his, it'll push it a little bit harder. But there's a lot of technicians out there building a lot of really cool Striker stuff, but nothing like him. We're talking a guy that puts hi-fi receive, hi-fi transmit, variable treble, variable bass, variable bird, variable peak power. It just, and the signal, there's no one in the business right now that is doing what he's doing with some of the Striker equipment. There's just not. But there's a lot of good technicians out there. So a 955 and a 4-pill is my suggestion, especially for an everyday driver going down the road. If they can't hear you on 800 watts, they ain't going to hear you, or you're not going to hear them. So, but then again, they hear you better when you're running a 16-pill. Just saying. Just my opinion. I'm a 3rd general operator and got lucky with both my boys. Oh, that's cool, Tom. Now that's a cool statement. Well, congrats, dude. That's badass, Tom. He says he's a 3rd generation operator and he's passed it on to the 4th with his kids, and his kids are into it too, his boys. Now, the boys can just grow up and find girls that'll be into it too, like my wife. That'd be even cooler, right? Then eventually they'll make babies, and then maybe they'll pass it on to their kids. And it'll give us younger folks somebody to sit around and say, well, you know, back in the day, we can gripe too when we get old. Okay, every screw is straight up and down, yeah? Oh, I hate this square blade. I hate flat blade screws. I did the best I can getting that on and not slipping off and scratching the aluminum. Check this out. Oh, VK Radio, hello from the great down under, the Australian. Man, I was on the phone just last night with my good friend Postman. We're down there talking about Black Diamond and all the boys down south. Way deep, the deep, dirty south. Let's see here. Mike Bressner. Howdy BBI, love your videos. Gonna have 208 U2 online. Dude, badass, Mike. Gentlemen, hit the thumbs up button. There's a thumbs... Wait a minute, there's a thumbs up button. We can pretend like we're on YouTube and make it rain thumbs up. What? Yeah, hey Don, thank you, man. I did. I got them. I just used it on camera. Hold on, we'll use it again. Hasn't called for it in the instructions yet, but I know that there's a screw that goes right up here. See that? The back plate's not attached. I'll use it right on camera right now for you. Here, hold on, let me pull apart. Thank you, by the way, and they're black. How did you know that's my favorite color? So, we need a nut. Need a star washer. I gotta come over to this bag of seminal vacinal parts. And I need, I'll know it when I see it. It's gonna be a 632 screw. There it is. Need that one there. Okay. Dude, Don, thank you. I appreciate this. This means a lot. I'm still looking for somebody that's got a high pot tester, something that does 10 to 15,000 volts, preferably a little bit more. Desperately looking for somebody, and now I'm not living in delusional land. I know that this tool exists, and I also know that I'm not going to be able to get it for free, because this is a very expensive piece of equipment that I'm looking for, you guys. An incredibly expensive piece of test equipment. So let's get my finger extensions here, because remember, I got fat fingers. I was just hoping and praying between the 18-some thousand of you and the 40-some thousand that I get as regular viewers on some videos, that somebody out there would have a high pot tester they would want to sell me. And so far I've had 2 guys message me about it. And I guess a high pot tester is kind of like asking a technician to sell off his family jewels or something. I don't know. And I want an analog one. I don't want a new fancy made in Chinesium junk. I want real American made. Yeah, that is so slick. Aw, where'd our nut go? Dan, you sold me defective equipment. Sold me. Sent me. Let's get another nut. No, Dan's cooler than you think. Check it out. I think BBI deserves a thumbs down for that one. Dan, you're cooler than I think. Sorry, buddy. Doesn't want to grab it. We have to old school it, man. Old school it. I want to know how my stainless steel hemostats are magnetized. That's not going to be fun to work with. I also want to know why the quote-unquote stainless steel hardware that I'm trying to install is magnetizable. Might need a degaussing plate or degaussing plate. God, I hate flat blades. Okay, let's change its index. Nope. See if I can scratch that one more time trying to put that on. What do you guys think? But no, Dan, thank you very much, man. I really do appreciate you sending these up. I really do. Let's see. Greetings from England. Midnight, oil burning. Oh, I'm not teaching anything right now, brother. High pot tester. I have and am willing to donate to the channel for... Hey, all you got to do is call me. The number's right there on the wall if you can read it backwards and upside down. But no, man, all you got to do is call me. Seriously. I'm just looking for a decent analog tester. I don't care. I've got a couple $1,000s we could throw at it, but I'm looking for a 10 to 15,000 kV insulation tester, dielectric, high pot tester that's analog with push buttons and gauges. And I even seen a really fancy one that had an oscilloscope on it. It looked like a curve tracer. I was like, ooh, check that out. But it wasn't no $15,000 worth of cool to me. KP 68 video gates. Howdy, Duck Bucker. Moving right back to you, man. Looking for a Messenger M4V. Rick, we've got a bunch of them here, but they're all here for repair, none are for sale. And man, I got some mint ones here, by the way. I got one that's literally got every part. It's like a kit, almost, that a guy sent up that he purchased from one of his buddies that used to, quote, work at Messenger. And he said that he's never put it together and wants me to build it. So we get to have that also as a build video coming up here sometime this next year. Chris Nomad. I know him. I know Chris Nomad. He may have one for sale. Miguel? Okay, well, I know him. Well, I will hit him up. Well, guys, I'm going to run. I just wanted to get the fan in. And that's actually dragging on a coax on the bottom of this thing. This stupid highfalutin RG400 that I put in it. It's pretty and white. Doesn't have one drop of cigarette stain on it. Gotta love it. I'm going to run. I'm going to shut this thing down. I appreciate everybody. Rick, Craigslist, Indiana for Messenger amp, $400. Miguel, it's a game of Russian roulette. Are you going to actually be able to get an amplifier off of Craigslist that works or not? It's a $6 million question. I just wanted to try this whole live feed thing out. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. I've enjoyed this last 30 minutes with you guys. I'm going to run. You're going to see little segments of this in the upcoming part 4 segment on this build, which probably won't be out till tomorrow night. But I'm going to try my best to have this done by Sunday, so come Monday the video will be out for it. So on that note, guys, I appreciate all the thumbs up. Hopefully I was able to answer everybody's questions as they came by. Let's see. Don't run, brother. Man, I've been tired and cold now for 5 days. 312. I just want to be done out here for a little bit and go in the house and hang out with my old lady before she falls asleep. Friday night, man. It's Friday the 13th. Danny, Don, once again, thank you, Don. Appreciate it, man. I love stuff like this, and it's like I was saying in that previous segment, this shadow box was sent to me by William Cunningham. I've got, you know, the stuff that gets sent over here that I think is really cool. It gets set up on the wall. This was given to me by my business partner. He built this in Afghanistan, the skull, right? Each one of these 250 caliber bullets means something. This little shiny skull over here, a customer sent in. All of these guys up here, customers have sent in over the years. All of the different Star Wars guys. But I'm running out of room for all the Star Wars stuff, so please no more of that, please. Just saying. But I appreciate you all, and I'm going to take off. You guys have a good night, and be well to each other, man. We're all in this game of radio together. And what did you say, the mic? Oh, I'm talking on an Electro voice at the moment, the black Electro voice. I'll see you guys. Have a good night. Bye-bye. Well, this is where we got to stop. We're going to have to wrangle this in and call this the end of part 4, I think. And we're going to finish this up in the next segment, part 5, because we're going to start flying. We're really close to the end. We just got the parasitics to put in the power supply, part of the biasing circuit underneath the relay drive circuit, and filtering cap bank and that kind of thing. But we're gonna hook and book right through this last little bit. But for all of you that have watched this series so far, I want to say thanks for holding in. I've seen several people say, well, I'm not watching it until it's all done. And I've had other people tell me, well, I'm not watching it until you get to the end because it's pointless. The stuff that happens in between is pointless. I don't believe so. I think every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we're almost on the last chapter. But what has happened in between, from this being a complete flat piece of aluminum to turning into a finished product, I think is very important. So those of you that have watched up to this point, I say thanks. And let's move on to part 4, or part 5, I mean.